Sometimes it's not what people say. It's what they assume you never had to survive. It happened at a Sunday lunch, the kind of family meal where every voice overlaps and opinions fill the air like steam from the kitchen. Kids running in and out, uncles arguing over recipes, someone always overcooking the rice. We'd done this dozens of times. But that Sunday, I stopped being the fun aunt, the cool sister-in-law, the invisible woman with no children, because one sentence changed the entire room, and I still hear it, like a slap that never left my skin. We were 12 around the table, cousins-in-laws, the usual suspects. Emma, my sister-in-law, was there with her 3 kids. She always came stressed, phone in one hand, wet wipes in the other. Her son, Josh, was 6. He was jumping on the couch, screaming, tossing utensils like tiny javelins. Emma was yelling across the table, "Josh, sit down. Josh, for the love of God, sit." Everyone laughed nervously. I smiled, then gently said, "Sometimes when they act out like that, they just want to feel more seen." Simple. Soft. Emma dropped her fork. She looked at me. Long, cold. Direct. Then she said it. "You don't get it. You have no kids." The whole table paused. My brother reached for the wine. Someone coughed. Even Josh stopped climbing the armrest. I opened my mouth, then closed it. Because what could I say? She was right. I didn't have kids. I laughed. Softly. Pretended it didn't sting. But my hands were cold. And my stomach, that deep, hollowed ache, began to twist. No one said anything. Not my husband. Not my brother. Not even my mother-in-law. They kept eating. Forks clicking. Chatter restarting. Like the moment had never happened. But I heard it again, echoing behind my ribs. "You don't get it. You have no kids." She didn't know. None of them knew. Not really. They knew we had tried. That we'd seen a few doctors. That we hadn't been blessed yet. They didn't know the rest. They didn't know about the clinic. About the hallway with chairs that never faced each other. About the ultrasound screen with no movement. They didn't know I had been pregnant. Twice. They didn't know I had names. One for each. They didn't know I still kept the sonogram. That it lived in a shoebox under my bed. They didn't know the clinic's smell still lived in my lungs. And they certainly didn't know what I heard that day. 3 years ago. I had my legs up, gown on. Hope in my throat. The nurse smiled too tightly. The doctor didn't look me in the eye. I saw the screen. A little blur. Then the silence. That long, terrible silence. The kind of silence that only breaks with one sentence. "I'm sorry, there's no heartbeat." I went home and sat in the shower for hours. Not crying. Just listening. To the drip. To my own breath. To the silence of a life that would never call me Mom. We didn't tell the family. They were planning a wedding. Emma was pregnant again. There was too much noise for our kind of grief. So we buried it in quiet. And now here I was, sitting at a table full of people who believed I didn't get it. Because I had no kids. No screaming toddlers. No car seats. No backpacks to pack. Just quiet. Just a body that had once carried everything. And still carried the memory. I looked at Emma. She had already moved on. Yelling at Josh again. Telling her daughter not to spill the juice. And me? I just stared at the salt shaker. And remembered the clinic. I stayed behind when the others started gathering their things. Empty plates were stacked. Laughter moved to the hallway. And kids zipped past with juice-stained fingers. I was still in my chair, my napkin folded perfectly on my lap. Hands resting calmly, even though every inch of me was loud. My husband leaned in gently. "He's ready to go," he said, motioning to my father-in-law by the door. I nodded, but didn't move. I looked over at Emma. She was helping her daughter zip up a sweater, chatting with her brother about traffic. Her voice was full, light, oblivious. I watched the way her hand moved across the countertop, the way she organized sippy cups like trophies of motherhood. And I remembered how just an hour ago, she had looked me in the eye and said, "You don't get it. You have no kids." I turned to my husband and said, "Give me a minute." I walked slowly back into the kitchen. The house was calming, the noise quieter now. Emma was rinsing plates at the sink, alone for the first time, Since that moment, I stood in the doorway for a few seconds, and when she finally looked over, her face didn't change. No smile, no shame, just the same practiced grace she always carried. "I need to tell you something," I said softly. She paused. Her hand stayed submerged in the soapy water. She blinked. "Sure," she said, neutral, unreadable. I took a deep breath. "I went to the clinic 3 years ago." She turned toward me then, her brow furrowed, confused. I continued. "We heard the heartbeat. Just once. The next week, it was gone." She said nothing. I could see her throat move, as if she was trying to swallow air that had suddenly thickened. "We didn't tell anyone," I said. "There was too much going on. You were pregnant. The family was planning 2 weddings. I didn't want to be the shadow at someone else's celebration." Still silence. I kept going, my voice steadier now. A year later, we tried again. Different doctor, different clinic, same silence. I pulled a small, worn envelope from my purse. I had brought it with me. I wasn't sure why, but maybe now I knew. Inside was the ultrasound. 2, actually. Grainy prints, black and white. I handed them to her. She would have been named Grace. The second, Lily. Emma's hands trembled as she held the images. "I'm so sorry," she said, her voice so small I barely heard it. "I didn't know." "I know," I replied. "That's the thing. No one ever knows. Because I never said it. Because saying it made it too real. Because grieving out loud felt like asking for something I didn't deserve." She blinked again, and now I saw it, the shift. Her posture softened, her shoulders dropped, her eyes full. "I didn't mean what I said," she whispered. "You did," I said gently. "And you meant it in the way people always do. Like silence means emptiness. Like not having children means not knowing pain." She let out a shaky breath. "I didn't know what you'd been through," she said. "I thought you just didn't want them." "I wanted them more than anything," I said. "I still do, some mornings." Emma stepped closer and pulled me into a hug. It wasn't polite. It wasn't stiff. It was long, raw. She smelled like dish soap and vanilla. "I'm sorry," she said again. I nodded, tears running quietly down my cheeks. After a while, we walked back to the living room together. People were starting to gather their things. My husband saw us and smiled, not surprised, just proud. Emma turned to her mom and said, "I owe her an apology." Her mom raised her brows, but didn't ask. We stood near the door. Emma held the ultrasound photos, looking at them again and again like something sacred. "You do get it," she said. "You've always gotten it. I just didn't see it." I didn't need more than that. I didn't need a speech or a toast or a rewritten past. I just needed this. That night, I placed the envelope back in the drawer beside my bed. I whispered both names one last time before turning off the light. Grace, Lily. They were real, and I had finally been allowed to say so.